Hey guys, in this video we're just going to be having a quick look at Crayola Super Tips, as you can see on screen. And I've got the set of 50 here, but there are other sets available. It seems to be quite a good colour range though, as you can see on the back of the pack. And of course, no packaging is complete without a picture of a dog with a jetpack. So everybody's heard of the Crayola brand. It's something usually associated with children's drawing brands, I guess. I remember being a kid, I think it was more they were known for the crayons off the top of my head. But they seem to have a really big range of products now. I'm thinking of these more of a felt tip than anything else. So I'm going to get one out on screen and just compare it to some of my other pens, which in this case happen to be markers, just so you can see how it looks in comparison, just size-wise and things like that. So this is a Copic marker and a Winsor & Newton brush marker. And taking a closer look at the barrel of the Crayola pens, there isn't really much to say. Nothing wrong with it, just a very basic design, white barrel with Crayola written on it. So if I take the cap off, you can see the nib a little bit better. It's very pointed, and the idea here being that you can use the side of it, the flat edge, for covering broader areas, and of course you can use the end of the nib for finer detail work. So I'll just show them all on camera now so you can see what they look like. And I'm going to create a colour swatch now, just so we can see how the colours look in person. To be honest with you, I'm not expecting much from these at all. It cost me about £10, and that's for 50 markers, which works out at about 20 pence each, I think. So really cheap. But these pens are available in sets of 12, 24, 50 and 100, so obviously the price will vary a little bit. I just got mine from Tesco. And the colour range actually does seem to be quite good. And it says on the pack that these are washable. I assume that these are aimed more at kids, so it probably just means it washes off your skin and things like that, or, you know, I don't know, whatever else kids draw on, maybe walls. I'm not sure, I haven't tested that. I've heard some people saying that they've had a few that have been faulty when they've bought a large pack. For me, all of these seem to work absolutely fine, so no problems there. I will say, although I don't specifically point this out on camera, some of the caps didn't match the colour swatch too well. For the most part it was fine, but yeah, the odd one was a little bit off. The colours seem quite decent in this set, they're quite vibrant, quite strong. One thing to point out quickly, the yellow that I got with this set almost seems like a highlighter. It doesn't look as bad on camera, but it is a very bright, luminous colour. And there are also a few colours that are very close to being almost identical. So some of the blues, some of the oranges, some of the pinks. There's a few on there, but overall not too bad. And you're always going to get a few colours that overlap to a degree. This red at the bottom, for some reason on my pen, seemed to be a little bit more scratchy than the others. Not massively, but worth mentioning. And it did feel to me like I was soaking a little bit through the page. So I'm just checking underneath the page. But it actually seems to be fine, and it doesn't even look like they've bled through on the back, which is pretty good because it kind of felt like they were. I've put all these pens back away in the order that I've created the colour swatch, and the reason I'm making a point of mentioning that is because the pens do not say which colours they are. They don't have any numbers or anything like that like a marker would, which is fine, but some of the caps don't match the colour swatch 100%. It's a little bit more difficult than, you know, say a Copic marker or something like that, where there's a number on the cap. Moving on, I just wanted to test these pens to see whether they blend at all. And this so far is just on regular printer paper. Just some pretty cheap stuff. This first one I tried to blend whilst the ink was still wet. Doesn't blend perfectly, but there is a slight transition. This second one along, I do the same thing again, but I give it a little bit longer to dry this time. And go in again with the lighter colour. It doesn't really blend that well, to be honest. But that's probably not the intention of these pens. I will test it on some other paper as well, shortly. And here with the blue pen, I'm creating 3 swatches, and I'm just going to leave the first one to see how it looks in comparison. And I'm going over the second one with another layer. And the third one, I'm going to give it 3 layers. Basically, I wanted to know if you could layer these pens and to see if they would get darker with each layer. And to a degree they do, but it's only very minimal. And once I started going over the third one again, it did start to bring up the paper and even start to soak through. So layering is not really ideal with these pens. I'm going to try it again, just in one larger swatch, with a different colour as well, just to double check. Again, the results are similar. You can layer a tiny bit on the second layer to get a slight difference in tone, but it doesn't look like they're intended for it. And it definitely will start bringing up the page. I don't know if you can tell on camera, but it has actually caused the page to actually bubble up. And finally on camera, I'm just going to show you or test the difference in thickness that you can get from the nib. Nothing too exciting there, pretty self-explanatory. Using the side or using the tip. I've read a few reviews online on Amazon and things like that, and a few people have mentioned that they run out quite quickly, these pens. Obviously I won't know that just from this video, so I can't confirm that. This little offcut that I've got here is a little bit of Bristol board. So paper that I would normally use with markers. I wanted to test this because I thought it might layer and even blend a little bit better than regular printer paper. So that's what I'm doing here, I'm just testing it. And at first I thought it was layering a little bit better, but it quickly started to bring up the page again. And wasn't great. Also, they do smudge or even rub off if you rub them straight away. I guess that's why they're washable. Here on the right, it's just 3 different pens I have used for inking, just because I wanted to test whether these pens would smudge them. So the first one is the Pilot G207, which I use with my markers a lot because it seems to be marker proof. The second one is a Sharpie, and that is the only one out of the 3 that seemed marker proof. The third one I can't remember what it was, but it didn't work too well regardless. So Sharpie definitely seemed to be a good choice for inking. And here I'm just testing the blending again, which, to be honest, didn't even seem to work as well as it did on printer paper. Maybe I just chose bad colours to use, I'm not too sure. Last of all, I just wanted to basically use these on a finished piece. Nothing too complicated, so this is just a Pokemon that I'm drawing, or that I'm colouring, I should say. This is Ivysaur. And the reason I chose to draw or colour this was just because I had some colours that seemed appropriate. This is again on Bristol board, because I figured it's going to be better quality overall. I did regret that because, as you can see, this came out incredibly streaky. So everywhere I drew, I was left with lines, and it was almost like drawing on a whiteboard in some respects. So really streaky, and left dollops of ink wherever I lifted the pen off. So for a lot of it, I was actually trying to cover large areas all at once, just so that I wasn't left with a mark everywhere that I lifted the pen off. The only way I could think to actually stop the streaks and to get a flatter colour would be to go over it again, but as already mentioned, layering didn't seem to work too well on this paper, so I didn't risk damaging it and just ruining everything. And apparently 12 of the markers are scented, but I did not notice that at all myself, but I definitely read that someone said one of them smells particularly awful and of bleach. I have no idea if the smell is intentional, but I didn't notice it anyway. So overall, I don't think these pens are great, but you have to remember they are only 20 pence each and probably aimed at kids. They seem like they would be okay depending what paper you use and if you're filling in small areas. So, you know, if you're doing like a colouring book or something, I've heard a lot of people saying they're quite good for that. And I also wanted to mention that I've had a look online and there are some videos of people using these pens as watercolours, going in afterwards with a water brush, and it looks really good the way it works, so I really want to try that at some point, but I can't comment on that just yet. I'll save that for a future video if you guys are interested. But I definitely won't be using these as they are for finished pieces or anything like that. Maybe they'd be alright just for a quick doodle, depending on your art style and things like that. For me, they're not going to get too much use like this, but I have seen some other artists create some great work. But yeah, I definitely want to try the watercolour technique at some point. So let me know if you're interested in seeing that, and I'll create a video on that. So to summarise quickly, they are only really cheap pens. They work out about 20 pence each. I found that the colour didn't go down too well because it was too streaky, and it doesn't seem to blend or layer either. But they probably would be okay for something like a colouring book or to give to a kid. Hopefully I haven't missed anything out. If there's anything in particular you want to know, please do leave me a comment below and I will do my best to get back to you. As usual, if you enjoyed the video, please hit the thumbs up button and be sure to subscribe for more content. Thanks for watching, everyone.